What you know, Alibis? Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. It's Wednesday, July 30th. Hope you guys have had a good day. Before we get started, I put up 2 new videos on YouTube today. The first are photos of the actual 3D model of 1122 King Road that would have been used at trial as a demonstrative aid to assist the jury with understanding the layout of the house. The second video is a new traffic stop that was released. This happened 3 months prior to the murders, and he was very close to the 1122 King Road residence. He was pulled over for speeding and a self-admitted seatbelt violation. I took out the background noise and enhanced the vocals and threw some subtitles in there so it's a little easier to hear. Today, we're going to go out of order. I really wanted to do this in sort of a chronological order, but I did find the transcript of the interview after BK was arrested and also an interview with neighbors from the apartment complex in Washington. So let's start with the post-arrest interview. This was written by Brett Payne. It says, on December 29th, 2022, Idaho State Police Detective Sergeant Gilbertson, FBI Special Agent Shirley, and I arrived in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania in preparation for the service of the arrest and search warrants for BK and his family's residence. They tell the address. After several coordination meetings, Detective Gilbertson, Special Agent Shirley, and I drove to the Pennsylvania State Police Barracks at Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, to await the arrival of BK after his arrest and to interview him upon his arrival. At approximately 2 a.m. on December 30th, 2022, BK was brought to the PSP Stroudsburg Barracks and placed in an interview room. The interview was recorded on the built-in video system at the barracks, as well as Detective Gilbertson's pocket recorder. Detective Gilbertson and I were the interviewers present. This is a summary of our interview with BK and is not a verbatim transcript of the interview. A full interview transcription will be attached to this case file. Detective Gilbertson and I began by introducing ourselves and stating which agencies we represented. When I stated who I was, BK stated, "You do look familiar." Detective Gilbertson and I prepared our note-taking materials, and Detective Gilbertson read BK his Miranda rights advisement. Detective Gilbertson asked BK if he understood his rights, to which he replied he did. After collecting BK's personal information and inquiring about any medications, Detective Gilbertson and I began to speak to BK. Detective Gilbertson asked BK about the SWAT operation at the house, to which BK replied he was concerned about his parents and his dog. Detective Gilbertson asked BK if he was going to Washington State University, to which he replied he was. We made small talk with BK about sports for some time. He stated he didn't follow WSU football much, but was a baseball fan. Detective Gilbertson asked BK if he had only been at WSU for 1 semester. BK confirmed this and said he came to WSU with his father on July 1st. He then went on to say he was a first-year PhD student in criminal justice and criminology. Detective Gilbertson asked BK what the process was to apply for a PhD. He stated he applied to 2 places, UC Irvine and WSU. BK said he was going to graduate with his master's in criminal justice from DeSales and was inspired. BK then asked if it was okay to engage in small talk like we were, to which we replied it was. After briefly mentioning he was strengthened by the fact his mother and father were okay, BK said he applied to the 2 schools because they did not require the GRE exam. He then spoke about the GRE for a brief time and then said he was accepted by WSU. Detective Gilbertson then asked BK what led him down the road of becoming a professor. BK stated it was because he loved being in college and stated knowledge was far more important to him than money. He added WSU had a good program to study under and then says, "You guys know all about this more than likely." He then asked questions about the University of Idaho and other Idaho universities before stating he did not know much about Idaho or Washington and had not left the tri-state area much. He then returned to speaking about his focus on learning and how he thought he could obtain his doctorate degree. He then said he recently returned home to see his family. Detective Gilbertson then asked BK about his time at DeSales University. He spoke for some time about his time at Northampton Community College and DeSales. He then spoke about how he became interested in criminal justice and stated he thought about being a police officer but did not want to make that commitment unless he was absolutely sure. He then continued to speak about his education and universities. He also spoke more about the process to get into a PhD program and how competitive it can be. Detective Gilbertson then asked BK about his move to Washington. He said he drove across country and wanted the challenge of driving cross country and experiencing it with his father. He then said he took a different route back home with his father for Christmas break to avoid snow. He began to speak about the beauty of the environment and its relationship to God and a higher power. We spoke about this for some time, and BK said he was raised Christian, but was always a skeptic, except when confronted with the beauty of the natural world. Detective Gilbertson asked BK if he had ever been to the Pacific Northwest prior to coming to WSU, and he said he had not. I asked BK if he and his father made any stops along their way back to Pennsylvania. He told me they visited Colorado, but the main goal was just to drive. He then told a story about seeing an unmarked police car near Kansas City speed up behind him, catch up to another vehicle, turn on its emergency lights, and then drive away. He thought this was strange and was unsure why it occurred. Detective Gilbertson then asked BK about the job he mentioned. He stated he was a teaching assistant. He then talked about how busy he was and how the funding package that comes along with being a teaching assistant is what makes the extra work worth it. He then discussed ongoing projects with WSU PD and the Pullman PD. He spoke more about how being a teaching assistant is essentially assisting the professors and the department. He stated he did not get to assist with teaching with the exception of assisting with office hours. Detective Gilbertson asked BK if he would be a teaching assistant again next semester, and he said he would. BK then stated he understood why we were engaging in small talk, but would appreciate it if we explained to him what he was doing there. Detective Gilbertson asked why he thought he was there. He said he wanted Detective Gilbertson to tell him. Detective Gilbertson said we were there because of what occurred in Moscow, but did not provide any further detail. Detective Gilbertson asked BK if he watched the news. He said, I watched the news. Detective Gilbertson then asked BK why he thought I looked familiar. He said he wasn't sure and stated I had a familiar face and looked like someone he used to know. Detective Gilbertson then said we were there because of what happened in November just off the University of Idaho campus. Detective Gilbertson asked BK if he knew what that was, to which BK replied, of course. When prompted to elaborate, BK said it was the incident we had been investigating for how long has it been? He said there were probably several incidents and then said he was aware of a homicide because of a WSU alert he received. Detective Gilbertson asked where he received the alert. He said he wasn't sure but thought it was sometime the previous month. Detective Gilbertson confirmed that was why we were there and asked if BK wanted to talk about that. He replied, well, I think I would need a lawyer. He then asked if we would explain to him what we were there for specifically and added he was tired. Detective Gilbertson again stated we were investigating the homicides of the 4 students and we had questions and things we hoped BK would help us understand. BK sat back and said he had the utmost respect for law enforcement, but stated it was a constitutional right to speak to an attorney. Detective Gilbertson affirmed this. BK then re-engaged and said the only thing he heard of from Moscow was an alert that came to his phone. He then said he wanted to talk to an attorney. Detective Gilbertson said we would stop now because BK wanted to speak to an attorney. BK then asked where his parents were and where his dog was. He re-engaged again and asked what questions we would have for him. Detective Gilbertson then asked BK again if he understood his rights and asked specifically what BK wished. BK asked what specifically we wanted to talk to him about and the reason. I told BK he invoked his Fifth Amendment rights and we were not going to ask him any further questions. BK asked again for the reason he was there, but added he would like to talk to an attorney. At this point, we concluded our interview with BK and left the room. The next day, on December 30th, 2022, this report written by Danny Vargas On December 30th, 2022, at approximately 6:30 a.m., I stood by while a search warrant was served at the residence of BK. While on scene, one of the neighbors who lived in the same building stated her husband returned home and he might have additional information to add regarding BK. The wife had been interviewed earlier in the day by several FBI agents prior to her husband returning home. Detective Mowry and I met with the husband and wife in their apartment. I recorded my conversation with my phone and informed both I would be recording our conversation, which they were fine with. The wife said she had been speaking with her husband about the questions she was asked, one question being if she had ever seen BK with anyone else. Her husband told me they did remember a time when they returned home and said they saw BK sitting on the stairs leading up to his apartment next to a male. They described the male as having light brown skin, a sleeve tattoo on his left arm, wearing a sleeveless shirt and shorts. The husband said the male was riding a dark color, blue or black, Harley-type motorcycle. He said the motorcycle was not a sport bike and was very loud. He said he and his wife both noticed BK and the male talking, but said as they got closer, BK and the male stopped talking and looked at them. The wife said BK acknowledged them and asked how it was going. She said it seemed as if BK was acting overly nice. They said when they walked away to their apartment, BK and the male were still silent and did not continue their conversation. The husband said he saw the male get up and heard the motorcycle start, but did not see him drive off. They said this was the only time they ever saw this person and or saw or heard the motorcycle. They said BK seemed like a quiet person and they remembered meeting his dad when BK moved in. The husband said his dad was very talkative. They said BK's car was always clean and neat, even on rainy days. The wife said BK would often park his car right in front of their bedroom window, and they would notice the headlights when he came and went. They did not notice when and if BK changed the plates on his vehicle. The husband looked through his phone and thought, on the night of the murders, he probably went to bed around midnight. He didn't remember seeing lights from BK's car and or knowing if BK was home or not. He mentioned on another occasion seeing BK return home around 1 a.m. and he was wearing dark clothing, had on a dark colored backpack, and when they said hi to him, he seemed pretty short with them. He did not remember what day this occurred, but said it was not the night of the murders. The wife said she worked late hours often and would also see BK returning home around the same time she would around 1 or 2 a.m. We thanked them for their time and told them to contact us if they remembered anything else. That conversation was recorded and is booked on a DVD into Moscow Police Department evidence. So kind of a short episode today, but I did find those going through these files and thought it would be interesting to jump ahead a bit to after the arrest. We still have a lot more to go in the process leading up to and some things in between. But that is it for today. Hope you guys have a good rest of your evening, and we will see you soon.